I never imagined the day my mom remarried would be the day everything in my life would change, quietly, but forever. It wasn't dramatic at first. No one noticed anything different. She looked happy, and he seemed like a decent enough man. But it wasn't him I was thinking about the night of their wedding dinner. It was his son, Caleb, tall, sharp-jawed, with eyes like something out of a sad movie. Caleb walked into the living room in a button-up shirt with the sleeves rolled up like he hadn't tried, but still looked perfect. We shook hands awkwardly. I muttered my name, and he said as like it didn't matter. And from that moment, everything I thought I knew about myself started crumbling, that he wasn't just attractive. He had something else. A presence. A pull. It made me uncomfortable. At first, I thought it was hate. Maybe jealousy. Maybe he was better than me at something I hadn't figured out yet. Or maybe I was just terrified of what I was starting to feel, that we didn't talk much the first few weeks. He stayed up in his room, headphones on, playing music too loud or gaming deep into the night. I could hear him through the wall. I'd stay awake just to listen, trying to guess what he was doing or if he was thinking about anything the way I was thinking about him. Then one night, the door to his room was cracked open. I don't know why I looked. I shouldn't have. But I did that. He was shirtless, standing in front of the mirror, his back to the door, his muscles flexing as he adjusted something in his hair. I should have walked away, but I just stood there frozen, my throat dry, my heart racing. That he turned and caught me. For a second, he didn't move. I was still. We stared at each other, longer than we should have. I could have made up an excuse, said something dumb like I was looking for the bathroom, but I didn't. I just blinked. He blinked back. Then he shut the door, slow and soft. I didn't sleep that night. My mind kept replaying it. The way he looked at me, like he wasn't even mad, just curious. Or maybe I imagined that. The next morning, we didn't say anything. At breakfast, he passed me the cereal like nothing happened. My mom asked how school was, and I lied like I always did. He didn't look at me once, but everything was different. I felt it. Every glance felt loaded. Every moment he walked past me in the hallway, my skin tingled like I was being watched out a week later. It happened again that I came home early. No one else was in. I walked past his room, and again, the door was open, just a little. This time he was lying on his bed, shirt off, phone in hand. He glanced up, saw me, didn't flinch. Gonna stare again, he said. His voice wasn't angry, just low, calm. That I felt heat rise to my face. I wasn't. He smirked. You were. I should have left. Said sorry. Slammed my door and locked myself away from that moment. But I stepped in instead, like a puppet being pulled by something I didn't understand. That he watched me. Sat up, his eyes scanning me, but not judging, just looking, slowly. We're not blood, he said, his voice almost a whispered my throat tightened. I know, and that's when he said something I never thought I'd hear. Close the door. I closed the door like he asked. My hand trembled on the knob, but I didn't let go until I heard the soft click of the latch behind me. I turned, unsure of what the hell I was walking into, but knowing damn well I wasn't going back. Caleb sat there, legs stretched out, back against the headboard. He didn't look nervous. He didn't look angry. If anything, he looked like someone who'd been waiting for this moment far longer than I had. And maybe that was the scariest part, because I thought I was the only one struggling. You ever kissed a guy? He asked, not even blinking. That I froze. What? He tilted his head. Don't act shocked. You've been staring at me like you want something. I just want to know if it's your first time being this close. My heart pounded so loud I was sure he could hear it. No, I whispered. He raised an eyebrow. No, you haven't. Or no, you haven't kissed a guy. I hesitated. I haven't. He nodded like he expected that. Then he swung his legs off the bed and stood up. Walked over to me slow, like he didn't want to scare me. I didn't back up, even though every part of me was screaming I should. He stopped right in front of me. His body heat mixed with mine. His breath touched my cheek. Do you want to? My lips parted. I didn't speak. I couldn't. I just nodded once. His hand came up, resting lightly against my jaw. His fingers were rough, maybe from gym or work or whatever he did when I wasn't around, but the touch was gentle. He leaned in, pausing just enough for me to stop him if I wanted. I didn't. Our lips touched. It wasn't like in the movies. It wasn't slow and tender. It was hesitant, a bit clumsy, but real. So real it hurt. My skin was buzzing. My chest was tight. The moment stretched, too fragile to hold for long. When he pulled back, he didn't smile. He just looked at me with those unreadable eyes and stepped away. I knew it, he said under his breath, almost like he was talking to himself that I swallowed. Knew what? That you felt it too. I sat down on the edge of his bed, dizzy. What does this mean? He shrugged, leaning against the desk now, his arms folded. I don't know. Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. We didn't say much after that. I left his room in silence, heart pounding in my ears. For the next few days, things were weird. Not in a bad way, just quieter. He'd look at me a little longer during dinner. Our fingers would brush when passing things. And once, he stood behind me while I was brushing my teeth and didn't say a word. Just stood there until I finished and turned around to face him. It wasn't love. Not yet, but it was something. A secret. A truth we were both starting to accept. But nothing this real stays hidden for long. And in our house, secrets had a way of finding the light, one cruel beam at a time. It didn't take long before I started noticing the cracks that it wasn't Caleb. He was still the same, silent, intense, calm in the way only people who've already accepted their demons could be. It was everything else. My mom started looking at me differently, asking me where I was going, who I was texting, why I was always so quiet at dinner. I brushed it off, told her school was just draining, that I needed space. But deep down I knew, somehow, some way the air had changed, like she could smell the difference. But we were careful. Caleb and I never spoke about it in front of anyone. We didn't hold hands. We didn't kiss unless the doors were closed and the lights were off. Even then, we barely touched, just enough to feel something, not enough to be caught. Still, secrets weigh heavy. Even when they're wrapped in silence. One night, I couldn't sleep. I got up, crept into the hallway. Caleb's door was open a crack, same as before. A quiet invitation that I slipped inside, that he was lying on his bed, his arm behind his head, shirtless again. His eyes flicked over to me. No surprise in them. No words. Just a space made for me beside him. I laid down. Our shoulders barely touched. The fan in the ceiling clicked softly. For a long time, we just lay there breathing the same air. I wanted to talk, to ask him what he wanted from this, what we even were. But I didn't. He spoke first. I had a boyfriend once. I turned my head toward him. You did. He nodded, his eyes still on the ceiling. Back at my old school. No one knew, not even my dad. He was scared all the time. Thought someone would find out and ruin us both. What happened? He ended it. Said it was too much. Said he didn't want to live that way. Caleb's voice was quiet, but not sad. Like it was a fact, something already filed away and dealt with. I reached for his hand under the blanket. He didn't pull away. I'm not scared of you, I whispered. He turned then, finally looked at me. His face so close I could count every freckle, every faint scar. You should be. I frowned. Why? Because I won't be the one to stop this. If it goes too far, if we get caught, if people talk, I won't be the one to end it. I didn't answer. I just held his hand tighter, because I already knew I wouldn't be the one to stop it either. The days that followed were both blissful and tense. We found small ways to be close. He'd brush my hand when passing me something. I'd lean against him while watching TV when no one was around. We existed in stolen moments, in whispers, in glances. Then came the night everything cracked wide open. I was in the kitchen, getting water when my mom walked in. She looked tired, eyes red-rimmed. like she hadn't slept. "I need to ask you something," she said. I froze. "Okay. Are you and Caleb? Is there something going on?" My stomach dropped. My fingers tightened around the glass. "What do you mean? Don't play dumb," she said sharply, her voice trembling. "I saw you. Last night. In his room. You weren't just talking." I couldn't breathe. She looked at me like she didn't know me. Like I was some stranger who had wandered into her home and started peeling the walls down. "You're brothers," she said. This can't happen." "We're not," I said quietly. "We're not brothers. You married his dad. That doesn't make us blood." She shook her head, stepping back. "It doesn't matter. It's wrong. People will talk. What will your father think? What will his?" I didn't answer, because I didn't care what they thought. I only cared about him. And in that moment, I knew we weren't going to be able to keep this secret much longer. She didn't speak to me for the rest of the night. Not a single word. Just that cold silence mothers use when they're not just angry, but disappointed. The kind of silence that digs under your skin deeper than shouting ever could. I went back to my room, sat on my bed, and stared at the wall. My phone buzzed. It was Caleb. "What happened?" I typed back slowly. "She knows." There was a pause. Then 3 dots. Then nothing. A minute later, I heard a knock at my door. Light. Soft. And I opened it. He stepped in and closed it behind him, leaning back against the door like it was the only thing holding him up. "She asked me to," he said, voice low. "What did you say?" He looked at me, a hint of sadness in his eyes. I didn't lie. I should have been angry. I should have told him. He should have denied it. But the truth is, part of me was tired. Tired of hiding. Tired of pretending like what we felt was some accident. It wasn't. It was real. And real things deserve air. "She thinks we're sick," I said quietly, sitting on the edge of my bed. Caleb didn't answer right away. Then he walked over and sat beside me. Our knees touched. He put his hand on mine. "We're not." But it didn't matter. That weekend, his dad came home early from a work trip. I knew something was wrong the second he walked through the door. He didn't greet anyone. Didn't ask how we were. Just called Caleb into the living room with that voice, sharp and short. No room for questions. That I sat on the stairs and listened. "You've embarrassed this family." "I didn't ask to fall for him," Caleb said, his tone steady. "You fell for your stepbrother. That's not love. That's confusion." "No," Caleb said, and I could hear the tremble underneath his calm. "It's the only thing that's made sense in a long time." Then came the yelling, the threats, the silence afterward that felt louder than the shouting. That I didn't see Caleb again that night. His door was locked. Mine too. The next morning, he was gone to no warning. No note. No goodbye. Just gone. His father said he was being sent to stay with an aunt in another state. Until he gets his head right. My mom avoided my eyes when I asked questions. She said it was for the best. Said time would heal it. That it was just a phase. But it didn't feel like a phase. That it felt like something torn out of me. Ripped in half. Weeks passed. Then months. I texted. Called. No answer. Nothing. That I stopped looking at his room when I walked down the hall. Stopped listening for his laugh. Try to forget the feel of his hand in mine. But some nights, I'd wake up thinking I heard his voice. I'd dream of the way he said my name like it mattered. Point one day, I opened my phone to find a message. Unknown number. But I knew. I never stopped thinking about you. My heart jumped. "Where are you?" I replied instantly. "Somewhere I didn't choose. But I'm coming back. When I do, we decide what happens next." Not them. I stared at the screen for a long time, my throat tight, because even after everything, after the silence, the shame, the separation, one thing hadn't changed. That I still wanted him. It was like a part of me had woken up again. That message, just those few words from Caleb, lit something in my chest I thought had gone out. All the weeks I spent in that empty house, pretending I didn't feel like I was missing a limb, pretending I didn't check my phone 20 times a day, hoping for something All of that disappeared with that one message. But days passed and nothing followed. No call, no new text, just that promise. I'm coming back. I clung to it like a fool did him. Why mom noticed. Of course she did. She tried to pull me back into normal, made dinner more often, sat down beside me when I was watching TV, asking questions she didn't really want the answers to. How's school? Fine. You still thinking about him? Silence. You need to move on. But how do you move on from something that never really ended? I couldn't. I wouldn't. Then one Friday afternoon, I came home and something felt different. There was a noise upstairs. Not the usual creaks or hums of an old house. Footsteps. Heavy, familiar. I dropped my bag and ran. There he was, in the hallway. Backpack slung over one shoulder, hoodie pulled halfway up his arms. He looked tired, older somehow, but it was him, Caleb. His eyes found mine, and for a second, neither of us moved. The whole world shrank to that one hallway. You're back, I said, barely above a whisper. He gave a tiny nod. Yeah. I crossed the space between us without thinking and wrapped my arms around him. He held me like he had been waiting to do the same. No words, no explanations, just that long, shaky breath against my neck. You okay? I asked, better now. He was staying for the weekend, his dad said. A trial run. See how things felt. To clear his head, he added like Caleb had just come back from rehab instead of exile. My mom didn't speak much during dinner. She picked at her food, her eyes flicking between us, never settling. That night, I went to Caleb's room again. The door was unlocked. He was lying on the bed, arms behind his head, same as always. Like no time had passed that I sat down beside him, careful. He turned his head, looked at me with that expression I could never quite read, somewhere between calm and storm. I missed you, I said, barely able to keep my voice from cracking. I try to forget you, he replied, eyes on the ceiling. Didn't work. We didn't kiss that night. We didn't touch. We just talked. Hours passed. Stories we'd saved. Moments we'd hidden away from everyone else. I thought about writing you, he said. But I knew if I heard your voice or saw your words, I'd come back. And I wasn't ready to fight yet. And now, he looked at me. Now I am. But even though he said it with certainty, we both knew nothing was simple. His dad still hated the idea of us. My mom thought it was some twisted phase. The world outside would chew us up if they found out. Stepbrothers in love. It wasn't just frowned on. It was a headline waiting to happen. But that night, lying on that bed with our legs barely touching, I realized something important. I would rather be hated for who I loved than loved for pretending I didn't. The next morning felt like a dream. I didn't want to wake up from Caleb, and I didn't say much at breakfast. But our eyes met more than once. A little longer, a little heavier. My mom noticed it. So did his dad. The tension at the table was thick enough to choke on that he stayed quiet, drinking his coffee like it was the only thing keeping him grounded. She moved stiffly, as if trying to keep the kitchen from becoming a battlefield. But already was. A silent one. Later that day, we went out, just the two of us, walked down by the old trail behind our neighborhood, past the stream where kids used to fish and teenagers used to drink on weekends. It was quiet now, the air thick with late summer heat, and everything unsaid that we found a spot under a tree and sat down. Caleb tossed a stick into the water, watching the ripples. They think we're disgusting, he said, like he was talking to the river. I know. They think this is a phase, that you'll outgrow it, or that I corrupted you. I scoffed. You didn't do anything. I was already falling before I even understood why. He turned toward me. Do you regret it? I looked straight at him. Not for a second. His jaw clenched. I keep wondering if we're selfish. Like, maybe we're asking the world to accept something it isn't ready to. I leaned in, elbows on my knees. I don't care if the world's ready. I care if we are. He looked at me for a long time. Then he reached out, brushing a hand against mine. It was simple, small, But out here in daylight, in public, it felt like defiance. I'm not hiding anymore, he said. And I believed him. When we got home, the house was too quiet, too still. Something was off. I felt it before we even opened the front door. That my mom was waiting in the living room. His dad beside her, arms crossed, faces tight. Sit down, she said. Not a request that we obeyed. I saw you too, she said. At the trail, holding hands. My mouth went dry. Caleb stayed still. We can't let this continue, his dad added. This isn't right. You boys are stepbrothers. People talk. Families get ruined over this kind of thing. It's not just a fling, I said, voice calm. It's real. It's wrong, his dad snapped. You're tearing this family apart. Maybe it was already broken, Caleb said, rising to his feet. His voice was low, angry. Maybe the real problem isn't us. It's you, pretending we can't feel what we feel just because you're ashamed. Sit down, his father barked, but Caleb didn't. He turned to me, eyes locked. You coming? I stood at him while Mom stood too, panicked. Where are you going? Somewhere we're not made to feel like a disease, I said, and we didn't pack. We didn't take anything but our phones and wallets. Just walked out that front door like it wasn't also an earthquake. We didn't have a plan. No car. No place to go. But we had each other. And for the first time, that felt like enough. We walked for what felt like hours. Neither of us said much after leaving the house. Not at first. We were both running on instinct, hearts racing, minds spinning. The silence wasn't empty, though. It was full of everything we didn't have to say anymore. The kind of silence that only exists between two people who have already made their choice. That we ended up at a bus stop on the edge of town. The sun was starting to dip, casting long shadows across the concrete. Caleb pulled out his phone, looked at the bus schedule. His thumb hovered for a second before he said, I've got a friend downtown. He might let us crash for a while. I nodded. Good. He looked at me. Are you sure? Like, really sure? About all this? I didn't hesitate. Yeah, I am. He gave a little half smile. You've changed. No, I said quietly. I've just stopped apologizing for who I am. We took the next bus. 20 stops. No one talked to us. We sat in the back, shoulder to shoulder, watching the world blur past through the scratched glass. It was the first time in weeks I felt like I could breathe. His friend lived in a small apartment above a rundown corner store. He opened the door in a hoodie and socks, eyes wide when he saw us. Dude, he said, blinking. What the hell? Can we stay here? Caleb asked. No excuses, no lies. His friend looked at me, looked back at Caleb, then stepped aside. Yeah, whatever you need. That night, we slept on a mattress on the floor, wrapped in a single blanket. No touches, no kisses, just warmth, safety, a heartbeat beside mine. But peace doesn't last when it's built on running. The next day, my mom called. 20 missed calls, text after text. Come home. We're worried sick. You're not thinking clearly. You're throwing your life away. Then came his father's message. You've disgraced this family. Don't come back. Caleb stared at that one for a long time. I watched his face harden like stone. I'm never going back there, he said. I didn't try to talk him out of it. I understood. The next few days blurred. We made plans, half-baked, desperate ones. Get jobs, find a place, build something that didn't depend on the approval of people who refused to see us, but money ran low. Tension crept in. One night, I found Caleb on the fire escape, smoking a cigarette I didn't know he had. His eyes were distant, sad in a way I hadn't seen before. I'm scared, he said, barely audible over the street noise. Of what? Of losing you. Of ruining your life. Of ending up like every other guy who thought love could save him. I moved beside him, took the cigarette, tossed it over the edge. Then I pulled him in, forehead against mine. It didn't ruin anything. You saved me, and maybe I saved him too. The final part of our story didn't begin with a big moment. There was no movie scene, no dramatic rescue, or tearful reunion. It began with small things, the quiet kind that build a life without a job at a cafe, sweeping floors and learning how to make lattes. Caleb picked up shifts at a bike shop, fixing gears and tightening chains like he'd been doing it his whole life. We ate cheap food, shared a beat-up couch, and counted coins to make rent. But we were free. Not every day was easy. Some nights we fought about money, about what came next, about the weight of carrying a secret that was no longer hidden. Caleb struggled more than I did. He hated being cut off, hated that his dad had written him off like a stain he couldn't scrub clean. I watched him wrestle with it, night after night, thinking he had to be strong because we were out here alone. But we weren't alone. Not really. His friend, Dante, turned out to be more of a brother to us than anyone who shared a house or a last name. He let us stay, helped us find work, and never once looked at us like we were anything but normal. And over time, his little apartment became a home. Weeks turned into months. The whispers in my head, the fear, the guilt, the shame began to fade. What replaced them was something quieter, sturdier. Love that didn't burn like fire but warmed like sunlight through a window. Then one afternoon, everything changed again. I got a letter. From I am OM'd in O envelope. Just folded paper in my mailbox, hand-delivered that I've been wrong. Not about everything. I still don't understand what you and Caleb are, but I'm starting to understand what love looks like. And it doesn't always fit into the neat boxes people expect. I'm sorry I made you feel ashamed that you're still my son. Please call me when you're ready. That I read it twice, then handed it to Caleb. That he didn't say anything. Just pulled me into his arms and held me like the letter was written to him too. Later that night, I called her. We talked, cried, didn't fix everything, but started that Caleb's dad never wrote, never called. But Caleb didn't need him anymore, though we moved out of Dante's place 6 months later. Found a tiny one-bedroom on the edge of town. Painted the walls ourselves. Burned dinner 3 times before giving up and ordering pizza. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. And somewhere in the middle of bills and late-night movies and laundry baskets always half full, we built something real. One morning, I woke up to find Caleb already dressed, sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at me like he was memorizing my face. What? I asked. Groggy T leaned in and kissed my forehead. I used to think what we had was a secret we had to bury. I sat up, and now I think it's a story we survived. A year passed, then another. People stopped asking questions, stopped staring. We became just another couple at the grocery store. 2 guys walking their dog, 2 names on a lease. But every now and then, someone would ask, "How'd you 2 meet?" We'd look at each other and laugh. And one of us would always say, "It's a long story." But the truth is, it wasn't long. That IT was just hours, and we'd live it again in heartbeat. Every mistake, every fight, every stolen moment. Because we weren't stepbrothers, we were soulmates in disguise. Hidden beneath a roof built by others. Found in a house we didn't choose, but chosen completely by each other forever.